Hi everyone, Nick here, and you guys seem to really enjoy my last plant haul video that I recently uploaded, and lucky for you guys, I have absolutely no chill when it comes to buying houseplants, so I have at least another 15 to 20 to show you guys, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. I'm sure many of you can understand, but working at a plant shop, it is very hard not to bring home a plant practically every day, but I try to be really good and hold myself back to a few a week. I'm cutting myself a little bit of slack because one, it was my birthday month this month, and two, it's the end of the growing season, so I'm just trying to squeeze in as much as I can before it gets too cold. But one of the ones I got recently was this Hoya carnosa Tricolor. I've been really enjoying Hoyas lately. At first, I was struggling with Hoyas a little bit. I had them growing in west-facing windows because I thought that would be good light for them, and I was watering them very sparingly. I found that the tips were dying back. They were turning brown and just kind of drying up and dying from the tip back. So I tried moving my Hoyas a little bit further from the window, probably up to 6 to 8 feet away from the window, so pretty far. And I found that they were doing quite well and they started growing from there. So I guess I learned that my Hoyas, even though they feel like a succulent, they don't want the light that a succulent receives, but at the same time, they don't want nearly as much water as a regular houseplant. So that means they're really easy. So what I do is I typically wait for my Hoyas, similar to like my string of hearts plant and some of my Peperomias. I wait for some of the leaves to get a little bit more flimsy and kind of get a little bit wrinkled because they're low on water, and then give them a little squeeze. If they're feeling like a little less succulent, then I give them some water. I give them a really good soaking, and then I find that they plump right back up and they're totally fine. So I've been really appreciating how easy Hoyas were to grow, even though for the longest time I thought that they weren't very easy. Not only this Hoya I got recently, but I also got another type of Hoya carnosa. I don't really know the variety on this guy. I'm not even sure if there is a variety or if it's just a regular Hoya carnosa. It's just a little green Hoya. It's got like a few like silver markings on the leaves, but it's really nothing crazy. But this one just looks so wonderful. It's just so all over the place. I had fallen in love with it when I saw it in the shop. And I have this one hanging in a wall macrame hanger that I got from my work, Urban Jungle, that I absolutely love. So really enjoy watching this guy grow. It's pretty far back from a window. I feel like it's about 4 feet from the window that's right in front of me and probably like 10 feet from the window over there. So it's getting light from both angles, so even though it's a little bit further from the window, it's doing okay. But I wouldn't put like a Hoya like completely deep in a room without light, because then it definitely wouldn't do very well. The houseplant world seems to be on a Peperomia kick as of late, so I'm always looking for the newest and coolest kinds of Peperomias, one of which is this Peperomia graveolens. I think this is a really interesting Peperomia. It's quite often sold in the succulent section of garden centers, I've noticed, which has kind of led me to put this guy in with my succulents in my south-facing window. But I kind of feel like I'm giving it a little too much light. I feel like this red color is fading just a little bit compared to when I brought it home. So I think I'm going to experiment by pulling it back just a few feet from the window and see how that goes. But this plant is really interesting compared to other Peperomias. It's a little bit more thick and succulent, probably why it is sold in the succulent and cacti section of garden centers. But something really interesting that I've learned is that graveolens in Latin means smelly or odorous. So apparently this plant has really smelly flowers. So I might be cutting off some flowers if they do appear on this plant. I'm kind of curious to see what it smells like, but I don't think I want to keep any smelly flowers around for too long. Otherwise, this is a really interesting plant, and I'm really excited to watch it grow because I really enjoy this red pattern. It's just quite striking compared to the other plants that I have in my house. Another Peperomia I brought home recently is Peperomia serpens. I think this is just absolutely adorable. It seems to be more of like a creeping, trailing Peperomia compared to other ones. These leaves are just so adorable. They're just so cute. They're little heart-shaped ones. I purchased this as coin leaf Peperomia, so at the shop, so I guess that's its common name, coin leaf Peperomia, but I just know it as Peperomia serpens. It is just absolutely adorable, and it's grown very quick for me already. It was I bought it in a 2.5 inch pot, so it wasn't even like, you know, outside the perimeter of this pot when I purchased it, and now it's starting to trail everywhere. So this is one that I've noticed at the shop that they really don't like to be overwatered. It's very easy to overwater this guy. So I've been doing my trick with the Peperomias and giving them a little bit of a squeeze, and I can tell that since this is folding in like this is right now, that this could probably use some water after I'm done filming this segment of my video. Another Peperomia I brought home recently is this Peperomia polybotrya. I actually have one of these already, actually right here next to the camera, that I got when I did my Steve's Lead video that is quite large compared to this one, but I had just fallen in love with these little ones that we got at the shop. There was no way I wasn't bringing one home, and we got these new pots too that are just adorable, so I just thought that this was a really cute combo. So really enjoying this Peperomia polybotrya. I've noticed that these guys really don't like to be overwatered. It's really easy to overwater these guys, so definitely be really sparing with this guy. Same with the Peperomia serpens and practically all of my other Peperomias. I give this guy a little bit of a squeeze, and then once the leaves are feeling really flimsy, I go ahead and give it some water then. and I find that my peperomias really do enjoy some bright indirect light and even small amounts of direct sunlight compared to some other houseplants that we have in our homes. This plant right here is quite wonderful. It's a Callisia repens variegata. I believe this is called a variegated Bolivian wandering Jew or a pink jewel wandering Jew. I'm not too sure. You guys know I'm much more attuned with the Latin, but I just really appreciate this plant because it's not variegated all over. It's got some splashes of variegation. Some leaves are even all white, but most of the plant is all green with purple on the back. You guys know I love purple on the back of my leaves. So this is a plant that I really appreciate, and also because it looks kind of like something that would be like growing just like out of the ground here in Philadelphia. I really appreciate those plants that almost look like they could just be like a wild growing plant, but have the extra zhuzh to them that really just gets me to want to have it as a house plant. So I really appreciate this little extra emphasis that this plant has. One thing I should mention about wandering Jews or Callisias or anything in that family is that don't expect them to live forever. This is a kind of plant that you buy it to enjoy it, to look nice in that moment, and then after you bring it home, it's very likely that those leaves or the stems are going to start to get very leggy, and the plant's not going to look as great as it did right when you brought it home. So will they live for a long time? Absolutely, but it's quite rare that they look just as wonderful as they do when you bring them home. So just something to keep in mind. I get a lot of questions about people's wandering Jews getting really leggy or just like growing all over the place. And is it a wonderful house plant? No, but do they look wonderful? Absolutely. This is another really awesome plant that's not very hard to find at all. This is an aluminum plant, or it's actually a Pilea. So it's similar to the Pilea peperomioides. This is a Pilea cadierei. This one is just so wonderful. It is so beautiful. It's got these like silver markings on the leaves, and the leaves are just have this wonderful raised pattern to them. It is just all around such a cool little plant. I had been seeing these guys at Lowe's years ago, and I just never picked one up for some reason. I don't really know what my deal was, but I'd always loved them. And so when we got them in at the shop recently, I was like, I need to bring one home with me. And I got it in this cute little basalt pot. So I'm just really enjoying the way this looks with the green and the silver with the brown color. So I've been really getting into these brown terracotta pots. I have way too much terracotta, so if you guys see these, I'd highly recommend trying them out. They really add some wonderful color and characteristic into my little plant collection. But this plant, as I said, it's a Pilea, so you can treat it just like a Pilea peperomioides in most senses. It likes bright indirect light, but it doesn't want as much bright sunlight as the Pilea peperomioides enjoys. I find that the Chinese money plant, or Pilea peperomioides, does really appreciate having some direct sunlight, unlike what some other people might say. I highly recommend putting your Pilea peperomioides in a window and giving it some direct sunlight, or else it's really not going to grow as well. In my experience, I'm sure many of you have other experiences, but plant isn't quite as easy as some people say it is. That's just what I'm saying. But this plant is quite wonderful. It's not as difficult in my experience thus far. It's just happy under its artificial light in my bedroom, and it really doesn't seem to mind, and a little bit of extra water versus the Pilea, which you overwater it and it's just gonna lose a bunch of leaves. So this seems like the new Pilea to try out, in my opinion. If you watch my channel or follow me on Instagram, then you definitely know I'm always looking for new Sansevierias just because they are such an awesome plant. They are just the one you can rely on at all times. This one right here is quite a wonderful little one. This is called a Sansevieria trifasciata golden Hahnii. So the Hahnii varieties of Sansevierias are actually the bird's nest Sansevierias. So they hold a much smaller shape, they grow in a circular pattern, and I get asked quite often at the shop, are these gonna grow into the tall Sansevierias or snake plants that you see quite often? No, they absolutely will not. They're gonna stay very small, and they're just gonna grow around in a circle, very similar to an aloe plant, but they're not gonna get as big as an aloe plant. So just something to keep in mind, but I really appreciate that this is the kind of plant that you can put on your desk and really just enjoy the small shape, and it's not gonna get much bigger and not gonna take over a space. So it's one that you can kind of just put into a little spot and just have to kind of forget about it, water it once a month, and that's all you really gotta do. So this one, as I said, is Trifasciata golden Hahnii. This one is apparently a much rarer variety of Sansevieria. Is it hard to find? No, but apparently the Hahnii are like more rare, so I've been kind of appreciating that, and we have a lot of Hahnii at the shop, so definitely bringing a few more home. I also recently brought home the Sansevieria Trifasciata Laurentii, just to cover up a little corner in our apartment that had an ugly little outlet that I wanted to cover up. So this guy does the job beautifully. This is, once again, a snake plant, so I just feel so comfortable anytime bringing these home that it's gonna live. So this guy is just hanging out here, down here in the corner. I water it like once every 3 weeks this time of year, sometimes even once a month. I really don't water my snake plants very often. You don't want to forget about them and let them dry to a crisp, but you do want to forget about them and just like not overwater them. So I just usually keep them off my radar compared to other plants, and that seems to work out really well for me. I have yet to kill a single snake plant in my 4 or 5 years of indoor gardening, so far, so good. I definitely touched on this plant in a recent video, but I want to share it again. This is a Sissis Rombafolia, or a grape leaf ivy plant, and I really appreciate this plant for pretty much the same reason as the Bolivian wandering Jew or the Callisia repens that I showed earlier, and that's because it looks just kind of like a plant that you could just like pluck out of the sidewalk here in Philadelphia, put it in a pot and grow it inside, but it's got that little extra emphasis that I need for a houseplant. I also really appreciate this plant. I think this is what I said in my last video, but because it looks a lot like English ivy, and English ivy is just such a horrible houseplant, and I'm not trying to talk crap on English ivy, I love it so much, but just like it gets spider mites, it needs like a south-facing window or it's gonna die, and maybe you guys have better luck than me, but I cannot grow English ivy and I just do not recommend it. In fact, I don't even sell it in the shop anymore because I just don't think it's a good houseplant to sell, because I just don't want people to bring home a plant that they're just gonna kill. So I've been picking up Cissis instead because I think they're just very wonderful compared to the English ivy, and the way that they look and the way that they grow. I just think it's all around a better plant, so I've just been really appreciating the Sissis Rombafolia. This right here is actually another Cissis. This is a Cissus rotundifolia, and this was a gift for my birthday from Sue, my coworker at Urban Jungle. She is just absolutely one of the sweetest, most amazing human beings on this planet. And I had been just gushing over my Cissis plants that I had bought in to replace the English ivy in our shop, and she just decided to surprise me with another kind of Cissis since I had loved it so much. And of course I love this one even more because it's like a combination of Swedish ivy and like that Peperomia serpens I showed earlier and a Pilea peperomioides. It just has so many wonderful characteristics, and it's so different than the Sissis Rombafolia that I have. Its leaves are just much more thick and succulent, and it's just overall, I can't believe it's even a Cissis, but it is. So I just think that's really amazing. I'm really enjoying this plant, and I'm really enjoying discovering a new genus of plants, because I think that's the most fun part about collecting plants is we get so comfortable with a genus. For example, we might get super comfortable with philodendrons or pothos, and we'll just try out a bunch of pothos, which is great, but I like to get out of my comfort zone a little bit with this little journey and try out some new plants. So Cissis have been really high on my list as plants that I've been enjoying growing as of late. Everybody can use a nice Christmas cactus in their life. I killed my one last year that I had. Was it last year? It might have been the year before. I don't know. I haven't had a Christmas cactus in a really long time, and I really enjoyed the one I had a few years ago. So I decided to pick up this little cutie, and it is it's a Schlumbergera truncata. What a wonderful name, Schlumbergera. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how it looks like it's pronounced. It is such a wonderful genus for a plant name. It is just a joy to say, Schlumbergera. But this one is apparently the Melissa variety, and it has white flowers on it. And as you can see, there are some blooms that are developing, or buds that are developing, I'm sorry. And it looks like this plant within about a month is gonna be just a beauty to behold. I am so excited to see the white flowers. My last Christmas cactus had beautiful pink and white flowers, but I think just all white flowers is just going to be so delicate and beautiful. We have a few other colored flower Christmas cactus at the shop, so I'm thinking about trying a few more and, you know, getting a few Christmas cactus in my collection. Like, you can always use a Christmas cactus, but I'm starting out with one. Maybe I'll get another one, but this one was just too shapely and beautiful to pass up, so I'm really enjoying this guy. What I've heard about Christmas cactus is this time of year, when they are going to be in bloom, it is best to let them get bone dry, and apparently you don't want to give them that much light. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to be keeping this guy pretty much bone dry until it blooms, and I'm also going to be keeping it a few feet back from the window just to keep it safe and out of those direct harsh sun rays. My terrarium needed a little bit of refreshing, so I had this beautiful Pilea glauca growing in here, but the other plants weren't looking as beautiful. So I replaced them with this wonderful Peperomia prostrata and also this Pellionia pulchra in the back. These are both wonderful terrarium species, specifically the Peperomia prostrata, because it just climbs the glass so well inside a terrarium. It does really well in enclosed terrariums or open terrariums, as long as it's staying moist but not overwatered, as most Peperomias like to be. So I really enjoy the way these look together with the blue, the like dark greens, and then the light greens. So I think this is such an excellent combo for a terrarium, and I'm really enjoying watching this guy grow. I've only had it set up for about 2 or 3 weeks, and already the Pellionia and the Peperomias are growing, and the Pilea is just starting to work its way out of the terrarium, so I might need to cut this guy back really soon. This is one plant that seems to be all the rage lately. This is a lemon lime philodendron, and I don't know what's going on and why it's becoming so popular, but it is really quite a wonderful plant. The ones I got in the shop were in 4-inch pots, and as you can see, they were huge and trailing. I've only had it for about a week or two. It's already put up 2 leaves, each of the vines, so it's growing really, really well for me. I have it just a few feet in front of a south-facing window. I find that my philodendrons, specifically the heartleaf philodendrons, really can take a good blasting from the sun as long as they're not being completely baked. So really enjoying this plant grow. Some of the leaves even have these wonderful little variegation streaks of the, similar to the Brazil plant, if you can see right here, the Philodendron Brazil. So a little bit more characteristic, and they're just really easy to take care of. So I guess that's maybe why they're all the rage, because they're so easy and they're beautiful. I guess it's kind of new compared to the classic heartleaf philodendron or the plain green heartleaf philodendron that we're used to. But I couldn't pass it up, so I guess I see why it's all the rage. But I feel like out of nowhere, this plant has just been going crazy, specifically here in Philadelphia. So I can't keep them in the shop. So keep an eye out for these if you think that they're really interesting, because you might not be able to get it very easily if people keep scooping it up as quickly as they do here. This right here is a begonia. I know it's a Rex begonia, but I'm not exactly sure on the type or the species or cultivar, whatever it is. But I did some research, and I think, I'm not positive, any of you begonia babes out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a begonia Indian summer, but I'm not too sure. It has a beautiful little red metallic sheen in the center, which I really, really appreciate. It's definitely not going to show up on camera, but I don't feel very confident about this. This was a free gift from the shop I worked at. We found it on the roof. We didn't even know we had it. So they gave it to me. My birthday was the same week, so they were just like, take it, but I'm feeling a little not very confident about it. I have it under a grow light in a very, very humid spot. I know that these guys love humidity. I've also heard that their leaves don't like to get wet, so that's kind of a hard balance to achieve when a plant loves humidity but doesn't like its leaves getting wet. So I'm doing the best I can. If you guys have any Rex begonia tips, I'd love it. The only begonia I have is an angel wing begonia, and it grows so easily and so wonderfully, but I feel like those are a little bit easier than the Rex from what I've heard. So any tips are appreciated. So the last plant in this haul is definitely a doozy. This is a Spathiphyllum sensation. So it's actually a peace lily. If you guys are familiar with my YouTube channel, you may have heard me say in the past that me and peace lilies do not get along. But disclaimer, I love peace lilies. They're one of my favorite plants. I think they are so lush, and they just have a place in my heart because they remind me of my family trips to Disney World in Florida when I was younger. So I really just have a place in, this plant just has a place in my heart. I had tried taking care of countless peace lilies, and I kill them all. They're just really, really hard to grow. But this one just really stood out to me because I have a really good friend from home, and her mom is really into plants, and she has one of these, and it is just one of the most beautiful lush plants I've ever seen. So when I had been carrying these at the shop, I've been thinking about bringing one home. They're pretty expensive. It's huge, you can tell. It is not a small plant. It's very big. So I had been thinking about it for a while, and I've been saying once they came in the shop, I was like, if this is here for another week, it's coming home with me. And then 4 or 5 weeks went by, and it was still in the shop, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do it. So I now have this wonderful, beautiful Spathiphyllum sensation, and I am just absolutely in love. I don't have that many big plants. I have a lot of house plants, but I really only have a select 3 or 4 that are quite large plants, but I'm really, really looking to start changing that because I think that largest plants, although they do cost a little bit more, they really have the greatest impact on your home. And if you think about it, this plant, although it was pretty expensive, I mean, it was under $100. So the amount of small plants you can buy for $100 is not gonna add up to this one right here, which wasn't even nearly $100. But you can see what I'm saying. I think that the bigger plants, although they do cost a little bit more and it might be a little bit harder to shell out that kind of money for a commitment on a plant, I think it just really has such a bigger impact on our homes. So I'm definitely looking to take a bit of a break from getting my small plants, and I'm looking to just hone in and get like a few large plants to really just take this place to the next level. So this Spathiphyllum sensation is my first one that I'm trying out. These spats, I am very, very certain that they will not flower indoors. They are just known for their foliage versus their flowers. In fact, peace lilies are pretty hard to get to flower again indoors. There's like a whole hormone that they use on them. That's a story for another day. But I'm not expecting any flowers on this guy. I didn't purchase them with any flowers. I purchased it just for the foliage, and I think it is just one of the most stunning plants I've ever seen. It's just so full and lush. And it really just, it almost looks like the leaves look like a bird of paradise, but just like 10 times more lush, which I love because bird of paradise are cool, but they really don't have the extra like emphasis that I'm looking for in a houseplant. Well, this guy has the beautiful deep green leaves, and it's just, oh, it's just a stunner. So this is my replacement for my bird of paradise that I had recently killed. For those of you guys who didn't know, I recently killed my bird of paradise. So this is my excellent replacement for that, and I am just so excited to watch this guy grow. This is my first real commitment plant that I have after all these years. Thank you guys so much for watching my plant haul video today. It is such a joy to be able to make these videos and show you guys all my plants, and I'm sure that my plants are really appreciating the extra spotlight and love that they are receiving. Thank you guys so much for the support as always. I really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, follow my Instagram at PhillyFoliage, and also check out my work's Instagram at UrbanJunglePhilly. I'll see you guys in my next video, and please leave me any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the comments below. Have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye.